In a world of global trade and interconnected economies, protecting local industries from foreign competition is a challenge that every nation grapples with. Governments have traditionally used tariffs as a key tool in this endeavor, employing these import taxes to shield domestic producers from cheaper foreign alternatives. However, while tariffs might seem like a straightforward solution to complex trade issues, their impact on prices is profound and multifaceted. Recent events have underscored the significant role tariffs play in shaping our economy, illustrating both the intended and unintended consequences of these economic policies. The latest round of price increases at Walmart, a retail giant that sources products globally, provides a tangible example of tariffs in action. Walmart's announcement of higher prices across its stores is not merely a response to changing market dynamics. It's a direct consequence of the added cost that tariffs impose on imported items, from electronics to clothing. Products that cross borders now come with a heavier tax burden, a burden that Walmart is passing on to its customers. This practice isn't unique to Walmart. Companies like Ford, a major player in the automobile industry, are also feeling the squeeze. Ford plans to raise vehicle prices in part due to the same tariffs that are impacting Walmart's bottom line. The reason is simple. Cars are complex machines made up of numerous parts and components, many of which are sourced internationally. If these parts now cost more due to tariffs, the overall cost of production rises, forcing manufacturers to either reduce their profit margins or pass the cost along to consumers, which is exactly what Ford is doing. But why are tariffs being imposed in the first place? Trade disputes between nations are often complex and emotionally charged issues. However, at their core, they typically revolve around one thing: perceived unfairness in trade practices. Governments implement tariffs to counterbalance what they see as unfair advantages that other countries have in certain industries, whether it's concerns about labor standards, environmental regulations, or subsidies given to domestic industries in other countries. Tariffs are seen as a way to level the playing field. For example, the United States has imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, citing national security concerns and the need to protect domestic industries from cheaper foreign competition. Similarly, the European Union has imposed tariffs on certain products from China, arguing that Chinese producers benefit from unfair state subsidies. These measures, while intended to protect domestic industries and jobs, have real consequences for consumers. When businesses face higher input costs due to tariffs, they are often left with few options. They can absorb the increased costs, which eats into their profit margins. They can negotiate with suppliers to reduce prices, or they can pass the costs along to consumers. In the case of Walmart, the retail giant has chosen to pass on the higher costs to consumers, resulting in price increases across its product lines. This is not a decision that Walmart has taken lightly. As a business, Walmart operates on razor-thin profit margins, and any increase in costs significantly impacts its bottom line. However, absorbing these costs is not a sustainable solution. Businesses need to maintain a certain level of profitability to stay afloat and continue investing in areas like customer service and innovation. Therefore, when faced with rising input costs due to tariffs, many businesses like Walmart opt to pass those costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Ford, a major player in the automobile industry, is also grappling with the implications of tariffs. The cost of key components, such as steel and aluminum, has risen significantly due to tariffs. Ford, like many other manufacturers, is heavily reliant on these materials for its vehicles. As a result, the company has been forced to raise the prices of its cars. Ford's situation highlights the ripple effects that tariffs can have on industries. The automotive sector is a prime example of this, as it is heavily dependent on a range of components that often originate from other countries. The price of steel, for example, is a crucial factor in determining the overall cost of a vehicle. When tariffs make steel more expensive, the cost of producing the car goes up. This increase in production costs can eat into profit margins, which is why companies like Ford may choose to pass on the additional costs to consumers through higher prices. It is important to note that the decision to raise prices due to increased input costs is not taken lightly by companies. Businesses understand that raising prices can lead to decreased demand for their products. However, maintaining low prices while absorbing higher input costs is not a viable long-term strategy. It can quickly erode profit margins and the company's financial health. Therefore, companies often find themselves in a position where they have to pass on some or all of the increased costs to consumers in order to stay financially sustainable. But the impact of tariffs goes beyond just the direct cost of imported goods. They can also influence the broader supply chain. Consider a scenario where a manufacturer relies on imported steel for its products. Let's say, due to tariffs, the cost of this steel suddenly increases. The manufacturer now faces higher input costs, which can impact its pricing decisions. In addition to the direct cost of the steel, the manufacturer may also experience delays in its supply chain. Tariffs can lead to longer processing times at customs, creating bottlenecks in the supply chain and slowing down the delivery of goods. This can cause delays in production and potentially disrupt the manufacturer's ability to meet customer demand. Furthermore, tariffs can discourage imports from certain countries, leading to a reduced availability of goods. For example, if a country is known to produce high-quality steel at a competitive price, but tariffs make importing that steel prohibitively expensive, the manufacturer may need to seek alternative suppliers. This shift in sourcing can lead to a decrease in the availability of the high-quality steel, forcing the manufacturer to use more expensive alternatives or potentially compromising on the quality of its products. Imagine a world where the cost of imported goods suddenly skyrockets due to new tariffs. What would that mean for businesses and consumers? The immediate impact would be felt at the cash register. Consumers would see the price tags on their favorite products go up. A shirt that cost $20 might now cost $22. A television set that was $400 could now be priced at $420. This increase in prices would not be limited to a few products. It would likely affect a wide range of goods, especially those that are heavily reliant on foreign manufacturing and components. The ripple effect of these price increases would be felt throughout the economy. For businesses, the implications would be equally significant. Many businesses, particularly those in import-dependent industries, would face challenges due to the sudden rise in input costs. Companies that source their products from the affected countries would have to contend with higher prices for raw materials and components. This would squeeze their profit margins and force them to make tough decisions. Some businesses might choose to absorb the increased costs, hoping that it won't impact sales. Others might pass on the higher costs to consumers, leading to further price hikes. And some might explore alternative sourcing options to mitigate the impact of the tariffs. The overall impact on businesses would depend on a variety of factors, including the nature of their products, their pricing strategies, and their ability to adapt to the new economic landscape. However, the impact of tariffs on prices is not always immediate. Sometimes it can take months or even years for the full effects to be felt. This is because tariffs do not just affect the price of imported goods, but also the broader supply chain. Tariffs can lead to delays in the supply chain due to increased customs processing times, which can result in stockouts and production delays. Additionally, tariffs can discourage imports from certain countries, leading to a decrease in the availability of goods and potential shifts in sourcing patterns. These indirect effects can complicate the relationship between tariffs and prices, making it more challenging to predict the immediate impact of tariff changes. The interplay between tariffs, inflation, and prices is a complex one. While tariffs can contribute to inflation by increasing the cost of goods and services, inflation is influenced by a multitude of factors. It is not solely dependent on tariff rates. Other factors such as changes in consumer demand, government policies, and global economic conditions also play a significant role. Therefore, isolating the impact of tariffs on inflation and prices is challenging. Moreover, the relationship between tariffs and prices is not always linear. The elasticity of demand, the responsiveness of consumers to price changes plays a crucial role in determining how tariffs translate into prices. If demand is inelastic, meaning that consumers continue to buy a product despite price increases, then tariffs are more likely to be reflected in higher prices. However, if demand is elastic, meaning that consumers are sensitive to price changes and can easily find substitutes, then tariffs may have a lesser impact on prices, as businesses may choose to absorb the costs to maintain competitiveness. The debate surrounding tariffs is a contentious one. Proponents argue that they protect jobs and industries, while opponents highlight the negative impact on consumers and the risk of escalating trade conflicts. Finding the right balance between these competing interests is a constant challenge for policymakers. As global trade becomes increasingly interconnected, the relationship between tariffs, inflation, and prices will continue to be a critical issue for economists, policymakers, and businesses to navigate. Understanding the complexities of this relationship is essential for making informed decisions that can shape the future of international trade and the global economy. As we look to the future, it's essential to consider the broader implications of tariffs on our interconnected global economy. As global trade becomes increasingly intertwined, the actions of one nation can have ripple effects across the world. Therefore, it's crucial to advocate for fair and equitable trade practices that benefit not just one nation, but the global community as a whole. Tariffs might seem like a quick fix to complex trade issues, but their far-reaching consequences remind us of the need for thoughtful, collaborative solutions in an increasingly globalized world. What are your thoughts on the impact of tariffs on prices? Do you think the government should intervene more in international trade? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more insightful economic analysis